Okay, good morning. It's November 1st, and Commissioner Ed Rothstein, District 5. We have our ag conservation text. We'll get through this this morning. Before all sessions, please let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment's silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a handful of screens up and the agenda on the screens. And Linda, why don't you just kick this off and facilitate where we're going to take this morning?
Absolutely. Well, good morning, Commissioners, and good morning, County Administrator Wyndham. Hope everyone's doing well. It's been a while since we've met to discuss this. The last time that we were here talking about ag conservation text was during the September 22nd public hearing. So the record period has closed from this effort. So today we are going to go over the public comments that received at the hearing and then emailed to us. And then we're going to just give a brief presentation of ag remaining portions from the public hearing. That was one of the bigger items that came up with various comments for that. So we're just going to go over again what those are and what that means, have a discussion regarding that, and then discuss what we call the implementation resolution, which is the final step in putting this all together. We have time scheduled with the board November 3rd, which is this Thursday, if you're ready, for adoption of the text. Then at that point in time, we'll be done. All of the entire code would have been reviewed, chapter 158, I should say, zoning code, all districts, and updated since the completion of the 2019 amended master plan. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary to go over the summary of comments from the September 22nd public hearing, which is in the packet that was emailed to you.
Okay, as Linda said, we had our public hearing. We had two of them on September 22nd, one during the day and one virtual in the evening. These are the comments in front of you that we received. You'll see the pattern. Most of the comments, let's see, there's 6 people testified. Most were in opposition to the proposed limits on remaining portion. You also received comments regarding opposing existing solar requirements for the dedication of the AgPres easement. That isn't something you really discussed in detail in your work sessions, but that was brought to your attention by these people. You also had a support for an appreciation for the changes to the accessory dwelling unit provisions.
Mary, can you tell us the gist of the opposition of the 5? Was it all the same issue?
Actually, if in the PowerPoint, I think we bring out more of the specific
Yes.
points, so that might help. And also, you also, in the written comments from,
Which are the next pages in your packet?
right, from Mr. Bale, there was support for that limitation. So we tried to break that out in the PowerPoint. Maybe that would be a better time. The record,
All 6 at the top, they're all attorneys, right?
except for Mr. Swisher.
Yeah, Swisher.
But Mr. Swisher's for the
5
ADU.
people, yes, the 5 that oppose the limits on remaining portion are all attorneys.
Correct.
Okay.
Except for Kevin Beaver.
That is correct.
Yes, he is not an attorney.
All right.
And 2 of them from the same firm.
Oh, really?
Chuck Coleman and Dave Bowersox.
No, Matt Lewis.
Oh, the Luzuriaga.
But, sorry, I got it from the same firm.
Okay.
And that's all that we heard?
That's all that you heard that day, and then you received these written comments.
Okay.
Over the record was held open for 10 days, and you have the written comments in your packet, and these were the comments that were received. Again, Mr. Kyler, Mr. Schaefer opposed the limitations on remaining portions, and also Mr. Kyler opposed solar on ag land at all, I believe. The Maryland Building Industry Association was in support of the changes to the cluster subdivisions. Mr. O'Meara opposed the limitations on remaining portions. Mr. Bale supported, and you have probably a 2 or 3 page email from him laying out why he's supporting those limitations. And then Mr. Beaver also sent in additional comments because the 3 minutes, he didn't say everything he wanted to say in the 3 minutes.
And going to the Maryland building industry with their changes, their support of the cluster, again, that was just making the conservation zone with the same provisions as we have in the residential zones, where you don't have to submit 2 plans. That's all that was. There's no changes to density or intensity or anything like that. It's just the plan submission. So I just wanted to point that out, that is what you've already done in other districts.
So, and I think I would also say, you didn't receive a lot of comments, and I think part of it is the process we used this time with the Ag Conservation Work Group. We started that last year about this time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Price.
Yes, and Price was the head of that.
And so I think we got a lot of comments throughout from them and a lot of buy-in from different groups. I think
Actually,
might
that group hammered out a lot of your issues way ahead of time.
Exactly, yes.
And that was, that saved
That's a
all
great
these
concept.
comments.
It was.
And I've heard from, gosh, it's up to about a half a dozen folks that are in this scenario right now that just didn't understand it. And now that they see it, they're like, oh, okay, we get it. And they were actually
Yeah,
in
I-
favor of
I
what-
agree.
And they're in my district, which is, by the way, has the most ag in the county. So I
Really?
do know a little bit about what I'm talking about because I reach out to people. That's the only way to get to the bottom of these things. Talk to the folks that actually own these properties. And it's interesting to hear what they have to say when you remove the attorneys and all that from the mix. So, no disrespect, but, talk to the people that actually it's going to affect.
You know my feeling is
So-
I want to put every attorney out of business.
Well,
when it comes to
Yeah, well-
zoning, and make it clear, and definitely no disrespect on my comment, but for all the right reasons. We do not need more attorneys when we have very clear guidelines when it comes to this. And I do applaud the work done over the last year to get us where we are, and make it very clear on the guidelines. So it has much less time for doubt and litigation and all that gray area stuff, and yeah.
So
It is.
again, this work group, just as a refresher, was really had a wide breadth of different types of people from the ag community, from the Soil Conservation District, alcohol farm producers, our ag liaison through economic development, Diana Hare, various attorneys were on this group. So we had a lot of knowledge and a lot of depth. And during that time, we brought to them, and they brought to us all the concerns and issues they felt were important in the ag zone. And like we said, we had a leader of the alcohol farm producer industry, Kevin Addix, and there was really nothing that he added. I know there's been some discussion that has been come up after the fact of all of this, allowing I don't want to call it a full-blown restaurant, so to speak, but something to those terms on those lands. And that came in after the comment period had closed down, so it's nothing that we had discussed as our work group, and that issue never came up during our 6-month-long work group or internal concept, and we never received any comments during the comment period regarding that issue of allowing basically restaurants in the ag zone, specifically pertaining to alcohol farm producers.
I had one forwarded to you.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Bean is
Yes.
back here today, which if it was an accessory use on that, it would, and I know the property, what we're talking about, which makes a lot of sense in this case, but I don't know how the board feels about it, but,
What's that?
Kind of reviewing that too, one thing I would suggest is that maybe that be taken up as a separate endeavor sometime in the future. It's substantially different than what has been presented, and we believe it's substantial enough that perhaps you would be best served by going out to a public hearing, because this is a totally new concept. I believe from the ag work group, again, that event banquet facilities really took care of that. So if someone wanted to do that type of thing, that would be the provision. by which they would do that under, as opposed to allowing for basically restaurants on these lands. We haven't done any research or investigation regarding that, so maybe that would be a future, if that was a topic that another board would want to take up. If you want to explain the situation of what you received.
Okay, it was just basically an accessory use to alcohol production for, I mean, if they have a ag remainder and they have alcohol production into this, an accessory use, could.
It's up to you. Well, this is some language, I don't know.
This is the language that was
Can we have
sent.
You're
somebody
referring
explain
to-
this for us?
But does it pertain to this decision today, or should we look at it separately? as
I
well?
believe it should be looked at
I think we have to
separately.
hear what it's about and then decide what
Okay, where does that stop?
I don't know,
Because there's two other ones right now that are in flux, that are in the same thing. They should be in the room.
When would we look into these if we,
That would be up to a new, I believe the new board at this point in time could make the decision if they wanted to make an amendment to what's being decided.
Okay, let's bring it back for a second. Commissioner Weaver, what are you asking us to do? Take a look.
I just wanted to consider what this was, an accessory use to farm alcohol production.
Which would apply to this entire,
The entire thing, yeah. If this is too big a task, we can always bring it up later, like Linda said, but I thought this would be the time to bring it up. At this meeting, if we're gonna consider ag remainders, or these remaining portions, and if they already have the farm alcohol production, is it possible to have an accessory use to that?
isn't that?
Well, this, I believe, is a suggested amendment to a portion of the farm alcohol producers portion of the zoning text. I'm just guessing because this is the first time I've seen this or heard about this. The concern, I think, from Linda's angle is this is not something that was brought up during the public hearing in any way, shape, or form, and we probably should go through a whole public hearing process so that people can weigh in before making this, because it is a significant change from what was either presented from staff or brought up during the public hearing. So the concern would be one concern, a legal concern, would be proper public notice. The second concern would be the board's understanding of what impact this has across the entire county. Because when you go to make a zoning change, a zoning text change, the county learned this about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when they changed sort of in a knee-jerk reaction from the BL to the BNR district. It had wide-ranging implications, and it wasn't really vetted prior to that change being being made, and had big implications. So that, I think, would be on a staff, sort of a staff level. Those would be the two concerns.
So this is something we need to bring up, change to the farm alcohol production
Portion of the zoning.
portion of this at
Yeah.
a later date.
At a later date.
Yeah.
I'd be willing,
That-
it won't be us, so.
Well, yeah,
Maybe
but
I
I
just
think it
ought to
would
shut
be,
up,
yeah.
because you won't have time to do that with us sitting here.
Right.
May I be heard on that, Commissioner Rothstein?
Well, that's up to us.
Yeah.
I mean, is there an issue for?
I
That's
guess,
fine.
would it be a legal question?
That's fine,
Would
yes.
that be allowed?
Why don't you
Oh.
take that mic over there? This way you can be heard.
Where I
you say?
normally sit. Is that-
Yeah.
Oh, there's one
Yeah,
over there.
that one over
Great.
there.
Very briefly, this is an 11th hour proposal, there's no question about that. But I don't think it's as significant as what it's been expressed here. Under the law that's already in place, that's been advertised and discussed or not discussed during this study period, the setbacks for this type of use, 200 feet front, side, back, would be the same. The winery, distillery, whatever the use is, the farm alcohol production is open to the public for tours and tasting. It is allowed food service already that's complementary to the actual farm alcohol producer. It allows events with temporary zoning certificates, and it also provides for catering of private events like banquets, weddings, and reunions, as I think you've heard. So This is a sort of a twist on that would allow a restaurant, and I think I left my language, Aaron, could you give me that? That would allow a little bit more, granted, but conceptually very similar. I'm here because we represent the Cold Saturday Farm, and we're very close to developing this as a farm alcohol producer. The site plan's almost ready to go. But this would not apply generally in the ag or conservation zone. It would only apply to alcohol farm producers. And what it says, what the proposal is a reservation only dine-in restaurant with a seating area not to exceed the combined square footage of the farm alcohol production, storage, and retail areas, which incorporates existing agricultural or historical structures on the grounds, subject to integrated site plan approval with the main farm alcohol producer facilities and bulk requirements otherwise applicable to the farm alcohol producer use. So it's a twist on what's there, but it is a little bit more. But we don't think we're asking for that much. And I know the Beans would be more than happy to explain their vision for the farm if you're interested in hearing that. So,
Now, also state your name.
John McGuire.
Okay, thanks, John. It sounds like it's a one-off, like you said, from the ag conservation, and it should be discussed at a later date from what was just shared. So
Yeah, I'm concerned.
I don't believe we should be addressing this issue with what we're addressing now, the way it was described. I think it was one-off of what was described in the agricultural conservation, as you recommended.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we're not hearing from the rest. That would be,
Well, that too, yeah.
that this would affect. And I'm gonna be brutally honest, we've got a couple of these right now that have already done this, that are against our zoning, that we're gonna be, or we are,
Right.
we're addressing. I'm not
Correct.
getting into all that, but those folks are probably gonna wanna be heard too. I appreciate the fact that there are folks that are
Yeah.
forward-minded thinking, and I am in no way talking against the farm alcohol industry, because I think it's great. It's allowed those who can't do anything with the farm, the typical thing, or the standard thing with a farm, to keep the farm, which is vitally important here. But what I am opposed to is now creating these pop-up restaurants that attorneys are rapidly finding ways to throw into the mix because of, we're gonna twist it just a little bit. And that is what I'm opposed to, and that's what a lot of the citizens that live in these surrounding areas are opposed to. Because I don't care if you do reservation or not, with it comes traffic, parking, noise, all the things that we've been messing with over the last, well, for me, it's been 8 years. But specifically in the last year, it's upticked because we are seeing these facilities, and they're just twisted in there because, oh, you can do that because I think it says this. We need to fix that, or the next board needs to fix that, to stop that. Well, it says this, but I think it means this.
Yep.
So while I get it and while I support it, I think it needs to be a broader look and allow for more folks to come in and comment on it, because it's gone down a slippery slope that I don't think this county needs to be going down into.
I agree. I mean,
So that's my
no,
10
it's,
cents.
and I do appreciate the comments that were made. And like you, it's not that I disagree with moving forward. I think, though, there's a different time and place for this to be discussed than addressing it here. Comments have been made. We are now moving forward. This is, I won't say a one-off, but a different opportunity for Carroll County that should be addressed later. So, yeah,
I appreciate
agree.
the chance to
Yeah,
be able to
absolutely.
comment. I thank you for that.
yeah, so it's nothing negative.
No, it's not, and
No.
I might even listen in on that one, because I think
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it's more specific for that ag, or that alcohol or whatever producing portion of this code,
To get it right.
to get it right, instead of just kind of willy-nilly throwing it in there,
Yeah.
and getting it to the point where, again,
Yeah.
you know, you have somebody say, well, you know, I think it says this, doesn't it say
Right.
this?
Yeah.
I think it, if you change that one word,
Yeah.
I think it means this.
So I think staying on top of it, as I know you will, let's get it right and serve the community better with this, just not during this time. But yeah, this is a positive thing, not a negative, so, okay. Okay,
All right, thank
we
you.
at?
So that's all we have for all the various comments. So with that, I think we're going to go now move on to the agriculture remaining portion presentation, just to refresh your memory regarding that.
you want us all to look this way?
Flip that screen for you. Get all lay down.
Rotate pages, I never knew that was on there.
Just the way it looks on my book.
It's only for 7 days.
There you go. Yeah, you're right.
It's right there.
Right there.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Sure.
Thanks. Have a great session, thanks. I'm rooting for Bear, baby.
Take me with you and give up.
Sorry
I don't think I do.
Thought it would. No, we can't. Wait, all right. Go ahead, you just,
I sent you the whole.
go ahead, you just.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
We have it in our books.
You do have it in your books,
Since I'm
so if you want to look at it that way, until we get this.
Well, yeah, but sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Oop, careful.
Too much stuff.
I guess I'll start with it just from your books, and if we can resolve this, it'll be on the screen. I apologize.
Good idea.
We have it in front of us.
Okay. So you see, this is the cover page. This is just, you've seen almost all these slides at several different meetings, but this is just to review, because it's been since the 22nd of September. What is an ag remaining portion? And this, obviously you know this, but this term refers to property that has been subdivided. It hasn't, I've been corrected on this by Laura Matthijs, it hasn't necessarily already used all of its residential development rights, but it doesn't have any more. They may still be able to build some that have been identified. So when you have the ag remaining portion, in addition to that one residential unit that you can still build on it, you could also do anything that's allowed in the ag district, which includes religious establishments, schools, daycare, veterinary clinics, contractors' equipment storage, commercial kennels, nursing homes, and there's various other recreational and commercial and institutional uses. So when this property, or when this issue was considered, we looked into how many of these are ag remaining portions are being used in this way, and we were a little surprised to find out that not many. There's 1,017 remaining portions in the county. The ones that are being used for non-residential uses is 16, which is 1.57%, and a similar metric for the acreage, if you do it by acreage instead of the number. So as far as the magnitude of this problem, and I think the graph illustrates it, it is not a huge problem, but there have been times it has been a problem, so.
And
that's why
Mary,
the
you-
issue was identified.
I mean, I've been saying it a few times, you understand. My biggest concern is that ag remainders within the designated growth areas be addressed differently than ag remainders for the entirety of the county. because the designated growth areas are designed to do just that, to grow. And although they were zoned one way at one point, the environment changes, and, you know, where are we going to be pulling our revenue from is from the designated growth areas. So we should give as much opportunity for them to grow, you know, and we're not talking a lot, but there are some. And whether we say all or a minimum size within the designated growth areas as opposed to one-off, I still think that that needs to be addressed when we're talking about this. What are your thoughts?
Addressed in what way?
That we allow for ag remainders in designated growth areas to include residential.
So they've already taken off the residential rights. So changing the ag remainder doesn't change that. Then you're fundamentally changing what the ag remaining portion is.
That would really be more of a zoning change.
It would be a rezoning of
rather
that
than
property.
a zoning text amendment.
Correct.
No,
You'd actually have to rezone the property, which is,
but why can't we put it in the entirety into the chapter and make it more black and white, saying that this is a permissible use in ag remainders within designated growth areas?
They need to be changed from ag remainders
to residential.
From ag.
Rezoned.
So it's not zoned ag remainder.
Process for that.
It's not it's still zoned ag. The ag remainder is just the leftover land.
Right.
It's
So-
more of a development review fiction,
You're not even,
if I may, no
and
offense.
not even, it's in also in the, plat and the record plat, it says this is it, you're done.
Right.
So that's a separate legal document from anything zoning wise, and I don't wanna interpret the law, so Jim, if you ever wanna jump in with that, but that we cannot change. What would have to be changed is you'd have to rezone that property.
Can we make it easier for properties
No.
within the designated growth areas to be rezoned?
You cannot, because Maryland law gives you two ways to do it.
Change them.
Change your mistake or comprehensive rezoning. So,
And we are beginning a comprehensive rezoning process.
And that's coming up.
well,
Master plan
the
process.
master plan
master plan.
process, that, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So that would be the way. The other concern is to,
It's not coming up.
Well, there's two definitions of short time and long time. 3 years, is short time in government or long time? Because the master plan,
I just want to be
Yeah.
careful, because we keep saying it's coming up, and
Right.
everybody, I had somebody say, are you doing that next year? Because that's like coming up. No, it's
Right.
2025 or 2026.
2025 is when we're gonna kick off that actual general development
off.
plan
3 years
portion. We're
away.
doing background work on it currently.
okay,
All
so,
matter of
so
perspective.
how about this? The study that we just put in place, the team that we hired,
So that's for economic development.
yeah, is it, could they have a look at this as well, or they wouldn't?
That's not in the scope of the RFP
Could we?
have.
Can we adjust the scope within the RFP? Because I know this company also does planning, land planning.
They do, but this is completely residential. So my suggestion would be when we get to the housing portion, to have that discussion. The other missing piece, and I hear what you're saying, is infrastructure. So agricultural remaining portions are on land that was zoned ag.
Right.
Land that was zoned ag does not have the infrastructure to support the additional development.
No, I know that part. That's regardless. It's the property I'm looking at, not necessarily the infrastructure itself.
Well, here's why it's important,
Yeah.
because in Maryland, under Septic Bill 236, you get 7 lots, period. So unless you have infrastructure and they've already taken their 7, doesn't matter what we do. We could have our 7500 zoning. If they don't have the infrastructure, they can't get more than 7. And depending on when this property became an ag remaining portion, they may have already taken their 7 already. So it wouldn't
So
matter
state law
what
would
we
prohibit
say.
them from-
State law would prohibit it. And so there's just, that is the challenge that we need to figure out, which is not a simple change for just a text amendment. It would have to be a much broader, comprehensive process. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make it be difficult.
Person, Halloween's over.
She's
No,
keeping
I-
us focused.
Well, okay,
And isn't that
yeah.
against, really, the original intent of what we were
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to do here in this county?
Yeah.
With our ag,
Mhm.
uh, preservation or ag,
Mhm.
whatever?
Yeah.
That doesn't, those thoughts go against that? Because that really wasn't the intent, I don't think, originally.
You're right.
When we were sitting around the table, somebody didn't say, well, maybe in 50 years, we'll want to build some more houses if they're in DGAs. Well, I don't even think that's not the intent of this. The intent of this is to keep us where we are.
Right.
I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about making sure we get this right. Because I truly believe that there are people pushing the
Envelope,
hands of the clock here in a place that we don't want it to be.
more development in agricultural
Yeah, it's
reasons.
just-
I agree.
I mean,
No, I
the
agree
folks
with
that
you.
put this program
Yeah.
into place, it's almost like the forefathers who are probably rolling around in their graves now because everybody's looking into all these things and they read it differently. I mean, that everybody has their own take on the Constitution and all that. Well, that's not what it says because I'm a scholar. Okay, whatever. But that's why I want to get this right, because we have the opportunity now to get this right and protect what the folks before us put into place here for Carroll. So while I agree with the DGA stuff.
I agree
do,
with you.
But the other thing is that you have to remember, if we get into that area, somebody's going to have to come up with some coin here, because you're going to have to put infrastructure in place.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, if I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, during the Freedom Plan conversation, one of the original proposals was to make several of those larger ag properties out towards the western part
Right.
of the designated growth area, to change them to, what was it called, very low density or something.
Density residential.
Yeah. And-
You're exactly, that was one of the premises, was to remove the agricultural zoning and make it either conservation that was some type of environmentally sensitive piece or very low density residential, because that's how a lot of the ag has developed in the designated growth area, more so than other areas.
So, and that was
yeah.
intentionally, if I may just finish,
please.
intentionally removed from the board when the plan was adopted in 2018.
Yes, correct.
This, this is important conversation, definitely. And the intent of ag preservation within Carroll County is to meet the goal, set in 1980 of 100,000 acres. The intent is really to get as much agricultural remainder as possible, or agricultural preserved in Carroll County. That's the overall intent. The target's 100,000. Within the designated growth areas, the intent is to grow appropriately without overgrowing in the designated growth areas, but, and it's a balance between the designated growth areas in the entire county. So looking at the ag remainders within the designated growth areas in a different way, I think adds value, and we should do that. Maybe not right now in this, but we should do that. And then the other part is, in the designated growth areas, we don't have ag preserved properties. We have very little,
You have some.
very, very little. Is there potential for ag preserved properties in the designated growth areas for them to take advantage of ag preservation in the designated growth areas?
They could. That's a Board of Commissioners sort of rule. There's no,
That
you know,
there's
that-
not, right.
that they, traditionally, boards have not allowed ag pres in DGAs, but that is a board rule. That's not
Right.
state law. That's nothing.
Right.
The tomorrow, the board
Yeah.
could decide, yep, that's
Yeah.
perfectly appropriate, we don't care.
There's very little state law that tells us what
Yeah.
we can and cannot do. I
Yeah.
mean, this is our decisions. And the reason I'm doing this is because a lot of conversation in the folks in the designated growth areas, rightly so, can be frustrated in paying taxes in Carroll County that are preserving agriculture in Carroll County
Elsewhere.
and elsewhere, and especially down in the southern part of the county, is they're like, why are we paying additional taxes when we're giving tax relief for large parcels of property, you know, in Carroll County? And the answer is to make Carroll County culturally beautiful and preserve it. Well, that's great, but they rather have a park or something. So if we can figure out how to balance this, and I think setting the stage, I'm gonna say before the others come in, but set the stage not necessarily to make that decision, but to set the stage. Because again, just my last thought is the attitude that this county is relying on the state for any of this stuff is zero. And that's got to be very clear. And this county decisions are reliant on the community and the citizens of Carroll County.
Sure.
And so when I have these town halls and people are frustrated, why am I paying taxes to preserve property up in the north? I say, I understand.
I see your point. That same group, they want the housing development next to them.
Right,
And you've been in
I
front of
know,
that group.
yeah.
Here, I mean, they can put that into a preservation program if they want that property you're talking about.
No, they can't.
Well,
We don't allow them to.
we could.
Traditionally have not, yeah.
Right,
Although there is ag pres in
one.
Elder, right.
And I'm not sure when that was put in place,
Yeah, I
but there's
don't
one.
either.
What do you
It's
have,
been a
2 or
while.
3 then?
Is it
No,
a
one.
MET?
At
least
It's
one.
MET. So I think it's MET, which is kind of like a donated, so you're kind of out of that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Maryland Land Trust.
Yeah, Maryland.
Oh, that's even a Maryland Land Trust, that's not even us.
That might-
it.
I don't know. But I think, unfortunately, Commissioner, I'm going to follow through with Linda's. I think the time, this is not the appropriate process to change the
Those
way,
rules.
to change the way those properties that are in the Freedom area to allow more development. That
yeah.
process is a different process.
I don't disagree, but being a work session, this is, no, but, no, I definitely don't disagree. Okay, so instead of the but, however, semicolon, however, comma, being a work session, it gives us the opportunity to have this conversation,
Yeah.
period, therefore, comma, we should continue having it until it's done. Grammar is very important to me.
Grammar
so-
is very important.
Irregardless of anything anybody says.
Oh!
So let's utilize this time best.
Okay, you're fired.
Irregardless,
didn't you, with the irregardless.
You like
Yeah,
that, you caught it.
I caught it.
And utilize, okay.
And utilize. Can't
So
get much
let's,
worse sentence.
regardless
Oh, good.
of the comedy of errors, use the time wisely and discuss the importance of focusing on ag preservation and opportunities in the designated growth areas. And we can come up with an idea of how many properties are we really talking about that would even be eligible? You know, is the juice worth the squeeze, in other words? But if somebody's paying taxes and they are not eligible in a community, they are very frustrated, you know, just like we pay taxes and we see a lot of money going into the city and we're like, well, wait a second, you know, it's very frustrating at the state level.
When we pay taxes, we see a lot of money going into sewers and water.
Oh, of
and
course.
Like the flip
growth
side.
areas.
Well,
course.
wait a minute.
But it's,
That's all fee-based, so.
Wait.
Well,
That's-
fee-based, but
Maintaining,
We've been subsidizing
We've
that for years.
subsidized that
Right.
quite a bit over the
Right.
years.
No,
have.
no. It's an enterprise fund and
It
it's.
is, but
and
when
it's-
we didn't put
enterprise
the,
fund, but-
but when we didn't move the fee up to what it actually costs us, we were subsidizing that with the rest of the county taxpayers, and that's been done for years.
But
Now
we've
it's finally getting
increased it.
caught up, and it is.
Yeah.
But I remember in the past where it should have been I don't know, let's say 8% raise, or we raise it 4%.
Right.
8% would have covered everything, but we didn't do it.
Yeah,
So
we
it has been,
put general funds in.
Yeah.
We plugged.
But now we've
Yes.
right-sized
Where'd
the.
the money
Yes, we
come from?
definitely do
No,
that
we
with
did.
solid
But we
waste.
right-sized the ship this
No, we
year,
did that
and
with-
we increased the fees, which
Freedom Air, I
really
remember that.
frustrated a lot of folks,
Yeah, but we didn't put the
because,
money back. Technically, that's what people,
yeah, but
we
the
took it
fees
out and never,
increased.
I don't know.
Budget conversations for another day.
That's it.
yeah, let's move on.
This is not an ag.
But I think,
Solid waste would have been a better example.
yeah, I do believe having this conversation, irregardless of what Commissioner Wanswear, and I was really interrupted, said, that we have this conversation on ag preservation within the entire county.
Well, certainly, and that's something the board could do. I mean, if the board is willing to entertain ag pres in designated growth areas, then staff can certainly bring those properties, if their property owner is interested, to the board. I mean, that's, as I say, that's just a board sort of
It
a,
can't be many,
No, I can't think it would be many at all.
so.
I mean, since the
I don't
county
like
only
the
has
idea.
one designated growth area,
And I
then there are only
understand.
so many in
It-
that
it may not
area
be
that
the
would
right
even
answer.
meet the criteria.
I mean, the next board can look into it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like the idea as
Yeah.
it stands right now. I don't have all the information on it.
Right.
But I don't like the idea.
Yeah, and like I
on the
said,
surface.
it may not be the right answer, it may not be, like I said, the juice worth the squeeze,
Yeah.
but just like any other, putting revenue on the table or expenses, because this is additional expenses. If we do this, we're taking, revenue and putting it into additional expenses, where it's not gonna go somewhere else. It's Budget 101, so we either bring up more revenue or lessen the expenses. But what's fair up in, and I've said this often, what's fair up in the north, the Tawnytown, wherever, up, in the beautiful communities in the north, is fair in the south. And, opportunities should liken themselves. That's why Charles Carroll is so important to me, is that I want that community to have the facilities that other communities have. So, yeah, just take a look at it, and Chris, you're going to have the lead on this one, so I'm glad you're in here. Okay. I'm done. Okay,
Today's
Mary.
conversation.
So,
Let's go to today's conversation.
we're on
This is
the,
today's
where are
conversation.
they located, ag remaining portion map?
Actually, we're on the one before.
I'm
where it
sorry, I thought we
shows
had
A few examples,
gone-
but
okay.
that's fine. I think everybody's
Yeah.
getting to this. We don't have it on the screen anyway. So there's examples. There's 3 schools and daycares.
God, they're beautiful.
5 religious establishments, 5 assisted livings. On this
Right.
one slide, but it's not a slide, you can see the range of acreages. So that pretty much tells you what is included. And the airport is actually, or not the airport, an airport is.
What's the recreational use again? What does that
Those
mean?
two that have been identified, those
Yeah.
would be outdoor recreational uses. Those,
I think it's the
I think it might be-
pool, the Carroll, South Carroll pool.
Okay.
that's one of them.
Remind one of them.
No, that's actual ag zoning.
Unfortunately, the next page
I
has
think it's
the
a
map, and
fire,
it's just not that
firearms
beautiful.
facility.
Oh, is it, Hat Baker?
No, that's county-owned land.
Um,
I think it's at South Carroll Firearms Facility in this one.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Okay, so it's those kind of
Yeah.
records.
Yes, correct,
Okay, all right, got it, okay.
So it's just, the map on the next page just shows they are pretty much scattered throughout the county, so there's not
Right.
any pattern really there. I think the next slide, that looks like this, is probably important to pay some attention to. As you can see, the acre classes go up to over 90. 45% of all the remaining portions are less than 20 acres. And 82% are less than 40 acres.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at, later on, we'll get to this, any kind of tiered approach, that kind of tells you, that puts that in perspective for you. So we may go back to that slide.
And I will tell you, there is an uptick in applications, I know with JP, in this group here.
Yeah.
I think it was, what, 8 couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Right.
And we're getting a lot of people hearing about this coming in now, so that's not a bad thing either.
No, I mean, well, the key there is that it, butts up against already existing preserved property and is kind of filling in those donut holes, as he would say. So yeah, we'll get there. It's just going to be a little bit at a time.
But how many of those know about this?
A lot of them have heard
would
of it,
hope.
and that's why they're coming
Okay.
in. They weren't trying to get into agriculture.
Okay.
Is there a way to market it, or should we be marketing it more? I mean,
Strictly voluntary.
but, so I attend, which, actually I enjoy attending, is the Ag Board, where they could talk 30 minutes about a 5-minute subject, not kidding. Anybody listening? I do appreciate, but this may be something to bring to their attention and just say, hey, get the word out, you know? This is a pretty good,
JP did do a very nice
presentation
at, what was that? It was an ag dinner.
the Land Trust.
Was it?
Yes, I think it was Land
Land Trust, yeah.
Yeah.
Did a very nice presentation on, yeah.
Yeah, but they can talk to other people, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just looking at other ways to
Yeah.
get it out there, so. Okay, okay.
So
No, it is
just as a
good slide.
reminder,
Yeah.
what went to public hearing, and that's this piece of paper. Because it's not on the screen, I'll read it. Further development of the remaining portion for purposes other than agricultural or residential as allowed by 158-07101, and I've added this since, under the agricultural land use category, because a few of the attorneys said there was confusion on what was being included as an agricultural use. So I added under the agricultural land use community, and that is spelled out very clearly in the use table. Shall be limited to one use per each remaining portion with no further subdivision of the remaining portion allowed. For the purposes of this subsection, a use shall be considered a single building as defined in 158-002 or area of use for outdoor uses. And this was important because some of the uses, for instance, a religious establishment may have multiple buildings.
Yeah.
Because it has some not accessory buildings, but even multiple buildings that are part of it. Or even assisted living would be one use, assisted living, but depending on the size of the ag remainder. you can get
5
as many-
buildings, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Is this
that's-
like the driving range, the golf course, that church?
Well.
Yeah, there's a
What's-
driving
what's-
range
what's
and a
that-
church,
what's that
That's,
called?
that's a bad example, but yeah.
What's that called?
Island Green.
Island
Green.
Green, yeah.
And there's that, and then the church, Jehovah's Witnesses got on there.
School.
Then the school got on there,
And then restaurant now.
and the residential.
All in that area.
Yeah, well,
All
all
in
in the
that property.
same ag remainder, they kept coming back. and
Right.
Taking another piece,
Which-
taking another piece, taking
Right.
another piece. What it was rural commercialization of the area.
Rural commercialization of the area.
That's what it amounted to, was
Wow.
loophole after loophole after loophole.
It's a good phrase.
So,
Well, it's not really a loophole, it's what the zoning
well,
allows.
it's
I mean,
allowed,
what,
but most
yeah.
people don't
It's what-
associate that.
It's what they
with that.
found that they could do.
Yeah.
And now it's become
a potential
a
concern.
potential, well, it's not potential, it's a
Yeah,
concern
a
to
concern.
me. So this is the proposed language, right?
That's what went to public hearing, that's what
Right.
people, with the exception of I clarified a little bit of the language in response to the attorney's concern, but that's basically what
Okay.
went to public hearing.
And
So
I
then-
apologize for not, I've missed a couple of these work sessions, but I watched most of it. Anyway, what happens to those that we just spoke about? Is there a grandfathering procedure that you all have identified? Or what do we do about those few, and there's a few, I can think of 2 right now, that have done this already against the language? What would happen to those?
They would just continue, anybody who's already even in the process, if
Right.
they've submitted something today, they would be allowed to continue.
Okay.
So
So it'd be
everybody,
sort of an unconditional type?
It'd be non-conforming.
some of them be
non-conforming.
non-conforming
Yeah.
because it's not in the use table.
Yeah,
It's a
it's true.
It's not,
subdivision
it's not,
method.
yeah, it's not that
They would
it's,
not be affected, I
Right.
believe. I mean, Jim?
Okay.
Wouldn't it be non-conforming, just like a
No.
residential house in a commercial area, like on
No,
Third?
because this language that I just discussed is in
If a subdivision.
It's in the subdivision chapter as far as
Right.
how to develop. It's not what uses are allowed. So the non-conforming
Okay.
relates back
Right.
to.
Got
Because they're all allowable
Yep,
uses
yep.
in the zoning code.
Got it.
So, yeah,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Well, since he said it's correct, we're done.
Yeah, I am, because
You know.
he's got the legalese, so are they non-conforming or? what-
No.
All
No,
uses.
they're
Nothing.
They're
They're
not
just
non-conforming. Non-conforming is irrelevant
to this
to
conversation.
this, because
Okay.
it's not a use under 158.
Okay, got it, that's what you said, Mary, okay.
But he said it better.
Okay, well, same thing, all right.
But also,
got
the
the degree.
uses are allowed under 158.
Right.
All of the remaining portion uses are allowed under 158. So there's nothing that's not allowed on these portions that aren't allowed in the ag zone.
And not to muddy it up, but if you disallowed one of them, then they would become non-conforming.
Correct.
Because it's the use, I probably shouldn't.
No, don't even bother.
Keep going.
I understand.
It's the use, not the,
It's not the development method
Right,
or
okay.
the development procedure.
okay,
And what you're suggesting changing is the development procedure.
got it, okay.
Thank you.
So then on the next slide, we summarized, as Commissioner Rothstein had asked earlier, comments received, really just kind of some summary of 4 opposition arguments, which was most of what you heard, and then 4 support arguments. So in opposition, the ability to develop remaining portions were part of changes to the ag district density changes in the late 70s. It was argued that this was
The deal struck, yeah.
The deal struck, yes, thank you. That property owners depend on the value of the remaining portions. They've known they have them, so they're depending on that value when they've calculated the worth of their property. Schools, churches, et cetera, are of value to the rural community. All remaining portions are not the same and should not be treated the same, and I think that was more in regard to looking at the differences in sizes. Because we saw that variation in sizes. There's some that are very large and some that are small.
That schools, churches, et cetera, what is et cetera?
It means any other institutional uses that are allowed. So it's not a vague term, I just didn't spell it all out. It's what we talked about earlier,
Okay.
nursing homes,
Okay.
Yeah.
assisted living,
It's
anything that's.
all of
list.
those others
Yes.
that you listed
All
before.
those things that are
Schools,
either
yeah.
permitted by right or by conditional use. And then in support, of the change, not of the current, but of the change, is that the original intent was to allow ag-related and supportive commercial uses. It was never the intent in the late 70s to let this go to where it's gone now. Necessary county services, fire, EMS, and roads are easier to administer in growth areas. Rezoning of property in growth areas is preferable to this, and commercial uses make the ag pres goal difficult. So those arguments were presented for why we should be limiting uses on ag remaining portions.
And just so you know, so we did a survey, and I think we talked
That's
about
on the
this.
next
Oh,
one.
sorry.
So if you go to the next page. Go ahead. Because that was yours, this one.
Okay. So anyway, we surveyed other jurisdictions on September 6th following this discussion. And how does your county handle agriculture remaining portions once the residential density has been used? So through Maryland Association of Counties, I put out a questionnaire to all the planning director affiliates. And basically what we got back was that Kent County, Queen Anne's, and Cecil have no limit on the allowable uses. We did talk to Howard County, and they're just unique because they don't really have a true ag zone in Howard County, so they handle things much differently. And then counties that are pretty strict, the counties below allow no further development. Harford and Prince George's County. I will say, we even talked to Worcester County, and they're very restrictive. You get 5, no matter what that 5 is. The 5 could be 5 residences, 5 businesses, just 5 subdivision, and that's all they do. So it spreads the gamut of extremely permissive to very restrictive. So there is no one size fits all. There is no best practice. It really varies county by county is our whole point in doing that research, because that was part of our
I
discussion.
mean, Kent, Queen Anne's, they do a lot of great things for Kent and Queen Anne's, but to compare us to them, what about Frederick and Washington? Did
We didn't
get
hear back
any?
from those counties.
And some of them that we heard back,
Yeah. It
it's
would've
just
been
apples and
interesting.
oranges, the way
Yeah.
our systems work.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
told us what they did, but it wasn't anything we could, we even
Right.
tried
Apply.
to put this in a table, but there was so many.
You're from Baltimore County?
No, we did not. But basically, there is no one size fits all. It is whatever approach you feel is best for your jurisdiction.
Okay.
Okay, the next slide are 3 options for consideration. You may have more, but this was just trying to focus the discussion. So, again, you could make no changes to the current code, that ag remaining portions can be developed with an unlimited number of other commercial and institutional uses as allowed in the ag district. That's what we currently have. Or as proposed in the draft that went to public hearing, which is ag remaining portions may be developed with only one commercial or institutional use that's allowed in the ag district. Or what was briefly considered here, which was a tiered approach. The number of commercial and institutional uses is limited by the acreage. And what was talked about was 0 to 20 acres, you would get 1 additional use. 20 to 40, you would get 2, and more than 40, you would get 3.
That's what Frederick County did, the tiered approach. Is that correct?
No,
No.
we didn't see, I think you all kind of came up with that
Yeah.
yourself at one of the work sessions when we were talking about this. We did not see the tiered approach anywhere. But being that there's so many different sizes of these,
Well, what allowed,
it addressed some of the concern about they're not all the same and they should not.
what allowed Frederick to all of a sudden just go crazy with development on
Well,
everything?
And that's all pre-planned.
Right,
It was
that's
all
their
on
growth area.
infrastructure. It's their growth area. So this is a completely different animal. I mean, I don't even want
Okay.
to. It's a totally different process, totally different plan.
I mean, I don't want to see what's happened up there happen here. That has been.
This would not do that because this is, that is their growth. They have infrastructure. It's their South County.
They follow their master
Yeah,
plan. All the South County is part of their master plan.
That 70 corridor.
Yeah, I like the third approach, the tiered approach. I think that makes sense. If you have a small remainder, 0 to 20 acres, 1 additional use. Well, you see it, I have to read it to you, but you see it, I just think that makes more sense.
Could you read it for me?
20 to
Yeah.
40.
Who came up with the acres? I didn't mean to
Go
cut you
ahead.
off.
No, go, you're good. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Who came up with
I
it?
think I might have.
Was it
I think I might have. And there's no scientific rationale behind it. Just looking at the composition of what we have, the various breakdowns, what the ag zoning is. The ag zone currently for residential is 1 per 20. Typically, I mean, yeah, there's some nuance to that. So that's where I came up with the 1 per 20, kind of following along with the current residential.
So if we said 0 to 10, it wouldn't apply hardly anywhere, I guess. would it?
No, it would apply to 45.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you go back
45%.
to that.
Oh,
Back to the
okay.
chart.
Okay.
So it would
Go
apply
back to the ag
to,
remaining portions by acreage.
it would apply to
Okay.
460 some odd properties.
Right, okay, because I like trying to reach the happy medium here, even though which is why I made the comment about 45 minutes ago. We only really heard from attorneys. I mean, we heard from a couple other folks, but, it was attorneys that walked in the door. Because it sort of throws a flag, and then they don't have much to do then if we do something like this, I guess, really. Is that, I mean, let's be blunt.
Well, that's what I've been saying
Right.
all along.
But I do like this because it does reach a happy medium a little bit, especially for those that perhaps still don't know that this has happened, which there's probably some out there, I can't imagine, but whatever. But I'm not sure I like the acreage,
Okay.
but I do like the tiered approach as you do, Dennis, because again, I think that gives the opportunity for those that are maybe in a bad place and need to do something, but yet it
They
kind of
already
keeps
had
the
one
intent.
use, now they got the second one with number 2. So it gives them 2
I know, Dick,
chances.
but if we
That's-
push if we limit the acreage a little bit.
But if you made the acreage smaller, I think you'd be going in the wrong direction from
Because
where
then
you
that
want to
does-
go.
yeah, because
Because
then
then they'd
that-
have more uses.
Yeah, right, I'm
And I
going the
don't
wrong
like
way.
that.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah,
I
If
don't
I'm
know.
understanding.
well, irregardless of.
So if we utilize this table appropriately,
You're all just killing me today.
So what you're saying is, I'm trying to.
You
get
might
this
want to make
right
the
in my-
acreage larger.
in my mind,
No.
right.
You might.
I know,
You
I know,
don't.
but I'm saying
Where
no,
you're
wrong
going.
Way.
I think,
I've done that a couple times.
That's why we're all here to help.
So,
I think if you look at the chart of how many parcels are in each one of these
Yeah.
acreage things, this is a good compromise. Not the best limit, no. this
Is
a
by-
good-
is by
it's a good
going to 20.
compromise.
Let's get my algorithms
no,
straight
so,
from here on out.
so,
But what's the original intent of this?
Of what?
The ag remainder?
well,
We're going against that.
exactly.
Well,
If we're going,
This goes against
if
it.
we're
How
going
does,
with the
wait,
tiered
how does it go
approach,
against it? Well, I don't know, what do you mean it goes against it?
Well, the original intent was, you've taken your lots or whatever off, and that is, now what's left is the remainder.
Right?
And you still have another, something else you can do with that remainder in there, so that's giving you two options. Now, you wanna break it down even further to give up to 3 different things.
But right now,
We're right back where we were.
no, but right now, you can have as many different options on the ag remainder as you can fit into the property. This limits that.
Yeah, we're trying to fix what,
Well, 3 is a lot.
I don't think 3's a lot on anything that's over 40 acres. How many acres is the Island Green area? I know it's not the whole area, but you know what I
I
mean.
don't know. No idea.
Okay,
I
I'm
would
just
guesstimate.
because of all the different things
Yeah.
they have there, it'd be a
I
good,
would guesstimate that's borderline 40. What do you think, Jen?
I think it's quite that
I think it's
big.
43.5.
Yeah, we can look that up. I don't have my.
No, that might even, or something.
That block there,
Because it's one of the,
I have no
I
idea.
would think,
So they
maybe
could
maybe a
go
little
in
less than
again.
40.
would that be the 30?
You come up with 2 more things.
No,
You got Google working
they got
back
enough
there,
there now.
You got Google working back there,
I'm trying.
I don't know.
Stall.
No, that's the.
Like a lot of things in this room,
That's
that's
a good
what they-
example, though.
Okay,
That,
it's
that,
not
if
an
we
ag.
can find that,
The
that's a good
Island Green is
example.
not an ag remainder. That's just an ag property. So again,
Again?
The Island Green's not an ag remainder. Again,
Okay.
remember, these are
Okay.
allowed in ag. So any ag zoning can have any of this. You can't distinguish by visually saying ag remainder, ag parcel, because the uses are the same.
right.
It's just the development that they've taken their houses. If they hadn't taken their houses, they could do that
Right,
Anyway,
anywhere.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
part.
okay, I'm just making it clear that it's
just an
not,
example.
I don't want to point that,
I don't wanna keep,
yeah.
bouncing off
I mean,
that.
So
but-
you're not stopping this from happening on ag land in general.
Right.
My concern is,
Right.
are we taking away opportunities for properties to be put into ag preservation in anything we're doing here? And to me, like, I think what Commissioner Weaver was concerned about was that tiered approach is taking away more opportunities for properties to be put into ag preservation. So it's counter to the goal we're going
There's
against.
so many factors that go into ag pres. First of all, it's voluntary, so maybe they would or would not want to come in. It has to do with soils, has to do with acreage size.
Oh, no, I
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, typically
Also-
over 50 acres is what we take into ag pres. Typically less than that, we don't take unless it's contiguous.
Well,
That's what I'm saying, if it's contiguous.
and mouth.
You're seeing
unless
now
it's
starting to
contiguous.
happen.
So,
Right. And we are in a position where we are 3/4 through our goal, and with 46 to 47,000 acres left to get 24,000 acres out of it, is becoming harder and harder to reach that end state. So my concern is, if this is counter to that, that's a concern.
I think any development's counter to any preservation.
Well,
I don't want to
don't know.
I mean,
force these,
yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, I don't want to force these people, okay, you don't, no longer have this choice, so now ag pres is the only way you can go. I don't want to force people to do stuff like that. I think they should still have a choice, because it's something
Decision.
you want to do. I think this tiered approach gives them a choice, and they have, plus it spells it out a little clearer about how many they can have. I just, I think if you limit it to 1 per use per, no matter what, how big the property is. I understand, but no matter how big the property is, you get one additional thing, I understand. I just,
And
it shouldn't all be treated the same.
Agricultural businesses in these areas. That's the original intent when this was put together for an ag remainder, to come up with a rural need at that point, and that is what it would cover. What we're doing here is opening up, I think, going back to what you said, people testifying toward this, oh, okay, we get 3 more uses on this. or develop this and develop it. You're looking at rural development a different way. And that's why I'm kind of fighting that.
Yeah, I get that too, Dick, but you really have to respect the fact again, and that's probably going back to contrary to what I would have been saying. Because I hate to do that.
You just have an
I
argument
hate to
amongst
be-
yourself.
I know, I'm arguing amongst myself.
And you lost.
But the original intent maybe that was put in place in what, 1970-ish, whatever it was?
Yeah.
You know, times have certainly changed since then, so we need to, I think, we need to take a viable approach of adjust and adapt according to the times too.
Well, it gets back to what you want the county to look like.
Right.
Yeah, it does, but.
Right.
And once you lose it, it's gone.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
right.
So just keep that in mind.
So,
Well, we're not abandoning Ag Pres. We're
well,
not doing that.
we're not abandoning it, but we're allowing this property to be used in more ways
No,
now
well,
by doing this.
Not
No.
really, you're restricting
actually
it
limiting
now. We're actually restricting how many ways it can be
Yeah.
used, according to how many acres it has, according to what can be done right now. We're actually cutting back on the number of things that can be used in these ag.
With the tiered approach,
Yeah, or
Yes.
with the, or with the one,
or with,
unless you leave it as it is currently written. Currently written, it's unlimited.
Yeah.
So if I have 100
Right.
acres,
As many
I
as you
can-
can stick it on
many-
that, on
Yeah.
that size.
Yeah.
Right.
That's allowed.
whereas this would restrict me and my 100
Yeah.
acres to 3
and,
uses.
and
Just to make sure
Okay.
you understand.
also on the side note,
You have
you know,
100 acres down?
when we talked to,
Big backyard.
when you mentioned the
Element.
size acreage, where to come up with, and you said, oh, it just came up from me. No,
Yeah.
it came up from you through a lot of experience and a lot of work. So don't
the property.
do
Correct.
not sell that short by any stretch of the imagination. So, I mean, you got the full confidence of me knowing you did this with your team to get us to where we are, but not just, I don't want that to be
Yeah,
thrown in there.
you're absolutely
So,
right.
thank you.
And again, it follows the residential too, which is the 1 per 20 roughly.
Right.
But if the board wanted to restrict, I mean, you could decide
Yeah.
on 2 tiers rather than 3, and just allow 2 uses if you
So
wanted.
right now, 82% of the remaining.
Throwing it
portions
out there.
will have 3 uses put on it.
No,
No,
only
no.
18% could have 3 uses.
18%,
Because
can have
only
3
18%
uses.
are larger than 40
Right.
acres.
right. Which is not,
Which is less than 20%. I taught remedial math for years. I got this.
you didn't have to take off your shoe or anything on that one.
You should have been in your class.
I'll put you in the back.
But you're in a class by yourself.
Developing the areas of the county without commercial and industrial zoning.
I caught that. It's,
Say it
yeah.
again.
You're developing rural areas
What?
of the county
I'm
without
listening.
commercial and industrial zoning.
Multitasking.
That's what it amounts to.
So, well, is that all that we had to present on that? The final proposal?
Well,
Just those 3
Okay,
options.
just
That's
wanted to
right.
see
Let's just-
anything else, yeah.
Let's just keep having this
yeah, the conversation.
discussion
yeah.
on this. The
Get
18,
acreage on that example.
Yes, Island Green, the current property is 31 acres.
Okay.
It's separated off 3 parcels that range from 3 acres to an acre.
Right. That just.
So, okay, that would have been limited
Knowing
to
that
2.
chunk, it
Right.
gives us a better
Yeah,
perspective
that's
of what we're
right.
talking
That
about with these.
that would have been
I know it
limited to
doesn't
2
apply
uses on this
today.
tier.
If it had been an
It would
agri,
limited
which
to
we don't
two.
think it is.
I
But-
think it would have been less than 40 acres, so.
Right.
Per the one option, you would
It'd
have
be
allowed
2.
2 uses.
Right.
Right now, it appears there are 4.
And that's a good visual because I think everyone knows that
Yeah,
area.
that's, yeah.
So by the tiers, they would have 1 more use on that property?
no,
No.
no,
would
they would
had
have 2
uses.
less.
Not
2
less.
less.
2 lots.
No,
They would
2
have
less.
Two less than what's
For
on there
now,
right
they would
now.
have 2 under the tiered approach.
They
Okay.
can't come back.
In
No.
addition to the 4 they've already taken?
No,
No,
they're
no.
done, they're done.
They're done. If the tiered
Yeah.
approach would have been in effect when they were
Would
doing
have
it,
been, but they've already had the 4, now this takes.
No, that's not
No.
ag remainder anyway.
no, we're not talking, I only wanted to use that as an example.
Okay.
If they would have been, if the tiered approach would have been in place,
Right,
they would have only been allowed 2.
as opposed to
as
unlimited.
opposed to 4.
Yeah,
that
4 to
they
have there right now.
So it would have limited the amount of uses
Which is a
there.
good visualization.
Yeah, and I don't wanna, if the guys are listening, I don't wanna pick on them, but it's
Right.
just, we all go by there all the time.
Right,
We
exactly.
know that chunk.
Yes.
So
It's
that's
very
a good-
visible.
That's a good one to look at.
So, again,
Any
I
of
don't
my
want
balls
to
are going to the right.
I go southeast, I don't
muddy
go
the
that way.
waters, but just like the Worcester approach is you get
I played turf, it
5.
was
I
awesome.
mean, the Carroll approach could be you get 5 total. Doesn't matter residential or
Say that one more
whatever.
time?
Worcester County gives you 5, no matter what. Residential, commercial, doesn't matter what it is, you get 5
Yeah,
subdivisions.
but I don't care about Worcester.
No, but I'm just saying,
I'm not moving
you
there,
can do it that way. So, right now, we're allowing the residential portion and then the additional, more commercial portion as additional.
So the Worcester approach, if I may, I'm sorry, just so I understand, I'm sorry. The Worcester approach eliminates ag remainders, basically. You have ag land, I can either farm it or whatever, or I can develop it. If I'm going to develop it, I get 5. I can have 5 houses,
5 houses,
or I can have 5 businesses if I'm big
or 3
enough.
houses, 2 businesses.
5 churches.
But I can
Divide it
on-
into 5 different large lots to be subdivided again?
No, you cannot. That's it. You're done. 5 subdivision, you're done.
Well, 5 subdivisions, you put 3 houses in this one, 3 houses in
No,
this
no,
one.
no, 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 no. It's just 5. You just subdivide it. Right. You get 5.
It's subdivision,
Yeah, but then you're done. That's it.
but if you have that,
There's no remaining portion. It's just you get 5
no,
things.
no, but
Yeah.
that, now you divided that 5 different areas, you put 3 houses in each of
No,
those?
you can't. No.
You want to put 1 house in each of them?
Yeah. Or 1 business or 1 whatever.
But that's not one of our proposals anyway.
No, no, but I'm
So
just
we're
saying,
looking
like,
at this
so
tiered
what kind
approach
of,
here. Let's keep,
That would be quite a
keep
difference.
focused here.
From what we, I mean, although I think it's interesting, I think it would be nice to hear from the ag community before we go down, personally. Not that I have a dog in this fight, but
Well, you have 100 acres down.
I do, my 100 acres, my 100-acre woods.
What if you push the tiered approach up and put 20 to 40 as 1?
1 to 40,
20,
1 to 40
I
is
mean, 1 to
1.
40. Yeah.
I'm helping,
I wasn't in his class.
I know.
So that's 82%,
1 to 40 would be 1,
and then more than 40 would be 2.
and more than 40 would be 2, and just leave it at that.
It's up to the board.
That would be a whole lot more limiting.
Compromise.
That is.
All about compromise.
Now you got 3,
No.
the original
Yeah.
plus 2 more.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we have a 4th option.
Don't forget the original's taken
Yes.
off this
Oh,
one.
yeah, that's true.
That off.
Okay, so that's
Now you
off.
want 2 more.
Yep,
So that's 3.
that's true.
If you have over 40 acres.
If you have,
Oh,
you're
I
right.
see.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
But keep
Okay.
in mind, Commissioner, if
ever say that to him
it's
before?
just your ag land, period, you have that 100 acres of ag land, you can put all sorts of uses on there.
Yeah. Well, that's.
There's no limit.
This is when I'm talking about the remainders here at this point.
Right.
And there's where the remainders become most of the, well, you run BZA, you understand this is where most of the issues come about in ag remainders and what can be done with them, and all
Yeah.
the issues come into there. Ag is pretty much spelled out, and what can happen there, much better than.
No, they're all the same. The uses on ag and ag remainders are 100% identical. It's just how, and at the moment,
More can be divided into, yeah.
and at the moment, there's absolutely no difference. Because, again, at my mythical 100 acres, I can put, if it
7
supports
houses.
it, I could put 7 houses if there's no infrastructure. I can put a church, a school, all those other things, a recreational facility on my ag land.
A go-kart
A
facility.
go-kart facility,
Once that 7 houses are taken off, that rest becomes a remainder.
only if I did the 7 houses. If I go commercial on this property, on my 100 acres, I can subdivide it as much as, like, we were talking about that one, unfortunately, Island Green property. That is not an ag remainder. It is ag. They've already taken 4 uses. They could put more uses because it is ag land. They could put more commercial, what we would, maybe most people would consider to be commercial
Right.
on there. And no matter what you pass here as proposed, that wouldn't restrict that property owner's
Right.
ability to continue to do that.
Because they never took the residential lots.
Correct.
It's not an ag remainder.
Right.
So that's why the interesting thing about the Worcester County idea is but again, I don't know that we want to go down that path today, is that all you get to do is 5 things, period.
That's a lot.
Okay.
Well,
I have to
yeah.
say, I like
0 to
the
40.
sizes. No, I like the sizes that are here right now, because what we're doing right now, if we go to this, we're restricting what these people, the property rights of these people that already have these ag remainders. We're cutting down what they can actually use. I don't want to take too much away from them. I don't. I like your idea, but I don't want to take too much away from these people that already own these properties and are maybe saying, you know, we have this, we can do this with it. Okay, we're going to cut you down to 3 uses if it's over 40 acres or whatever, wherever they happen to fall into. I don't want to take too much away from them. They might be banking on that for their future or for whatever. I just don't think we should take that much away. I think this is a good compromise. We are restricting it. We're cutting it back from what it was before, but they still, depends on the size of their property, have some additional use for that property. That's why I like this.
It's a good argument.
That's fair.
That's the property rights to look at it, which is
That's
a
right.
fair way to look at it. I will agree with you on that.
Yep.
Just do away with anything. Do what you want on your own property.
I don't want to go that far,
It could be Texas
So
and
what we're
eliminate
looking at
zoning.
is,
unless they had 100 acres then.
so 45% of the property owners will have one additional opportunity.
Right.
Up to 82%, so another, whatever that is.
20 acres.
38% more.
20 to 40 acres.
Right.
Which is 82 minus 45, that's higher math. What is
38.
it there?
That was in my remedial class.
Okay. Is what?
38, I think.
No, it's not 38.
Something like
Is it?
37.
I don't know. 38.
37.
Yeah,
No.
37.
37. 37% would be 2,
Okay,
and then 18% would be 3.
you have 90 acres in here. You have, in following Steve's option here, we have 2 uses of it. When they take those off, say they want to build a school and a church on this ground, they still have 70 acres left. Can they put that in ag pres?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. As long as they meet other criteria, but
I mean, that, now they're limited at that point. Yeah, they have to meet all the criteria there, but I'm just wondering,
if they met, other things, they would be allowed to.
that would only be
I like the
for
argument
larger
about
ones,
property owner
which
rights.
didn't change, wouldn't have to do that. Right. Too small left.
What do you say?
I liked your argument about property owner rights. I mean, it's,
Yeah, I do too.
it's important.
But
But-
semicolon,
Right, we have to
Comma.
balance
But
this.
would be a comma.
okay, whatever.
It would be.
So they
That would be a
separate houses,
semicolon.
Put solar on it, up to 10 acres. It's community solar. And if they wanted to, then one other one.
So that's like
Unlimited
the,
solar is my,
isn't that like the Delaney property?
Plastic bags.
No, the Delaney Properties Employment
over top the
Campus.
solar.
Oh. Completely?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The property next to landfill? Northern landfill? Northern landfill?
That's all industrial, commercial, and
Talking about the
ag.
property we bought.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
about our
a
property?
combination of,
Yeah, it's a combination.
It's our property.
No, I'm just curious what it was.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
commercial, industrial, and ag,
Okay, okay.
depending on what portion you're talking.
And then whatever you didn't rezone was state agriculture, so it just kind of depends. It's a little mix there.
Okay. Okay.
Are we gonna make, are we looking to make a decision on this today, or are we
Sure.
gonna? What's our,
Yeah,
I'd like
if
the way
you're,
it went
if we're ready
as
to.
it already went
I mean, if
to
we're-
Well, Thursday, you have Thursday.
Well, I think what we were hoping for is a general consensus, and maybe if you wanted to take a vote on what you want to do with this. We actually have the legislation prepared. Thursday was the day for the complete voting on this, unless you'd like to do that today as well. Prepared either direction.
So is it on the agenda for Thursday?
Yes.
okay.
Got it.
But I guess staff's looking for
Well, I'm
direction.
in favor of moving forward with the tiered approach that's presented here.
Not Steve's proposal.
Lance's?
That's 1, 2, as opposed to 1, 2, 3.
No, no, I'm not. I like the proposal here. I'll be very frank, I'll be open to either one, but I like
Yeah.
this one better.
Yeah.
You've cracked open the door, Frazier,
I want to slam it shut.
but I put my foot in it, so.
Yeah, I agree. Between now and Thursday, are folks going to be calling in?
No.
Are they have any opportunity
No.
to have any conversation?
Nope, the public
So
hearing's
really,
in.
it's,
So we already have public
it's
hearings.
so it's really now, between now and Thursday, up to us.
Correct.
So if we're ready to make a decision on this, or we can hang for 2 days, it's either way.
Well, since it's on the agenda for Thursday, why don't we make the decision on
No,
Thursday?
That's fine. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, you don't have all the stuff written up, right?
Well, I do have 3
It's right here.
options written off.
So, right, so I guess what we would be asking for is direction on this particular piece of this. The entire vote on 155 and 158 revisions are, that will
Okay,
happen on
okay.
Thursday. And we would then have the
Okay.
appropriate legislation in front of you that reflects what your decision is for this today.
So, is there a motion for what should be considered here to be added into the entirety of 158? That's what
Correct.
you're asking?
Actually, it's 155.
155.0.
As I thought, no, I
091.
said. Okay.
I'll make a motion
155.091.
that the tiered approach as presented here be added to 155.091.
I will second that.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing,
Need to use Steve's proposal on this.
seeing here none,
Let's wait and see what happens.
all in favor of the tiered approach
With the 3 tiers.
with the,
Presented.
as presented, which is the 3 tiers? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Now,
Okay, 3-2 carries.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have anything else to present?
Nothing really to present, just your agreement that the resolution for implementation that we talked about, that you've always used.
What is this?
The
now?
very end of your,
All right.
packet.
Oh, wait.
Again, with the salaries look.
This was, we first used it in 2019, and then last year. Basically, anybody that is in the process at all submitting any type of plan is grandfathered in. If they come in for an amendment though,
Right.
then they have to follow the new procedures.
Right, which makes sense. We're not voting on this or anything right now. I mean.
No, I just would wanna prepare it for you for Thursday to be
Okay.
adopted at the same time you do 158 and 155. And then the effective date, we proposed December 1st, I believe, because that gives the zoning administrator time to get up to speed on any changes. The BZA, we were going to present changes to the BZA. in the
Is that
next month
enough
or so.
time, or should it be calendar year? I mean,
It's up to you.
Well, if we want to get it done, it has to be December 1st.
right.
Well,
No.
you have it done anyway.
Well, no,
It's
no,
just
we,
that-
we'll get it done,
Oh,
implementation.
effective date, okay, okay,
Right.
sorry.
I
Sorry.
just want to make sure that they have the ability with the effective date.
Chris, do you think that's?
I think that's sufficient.
1 December? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we've been following this along, so
Yeah,
we're
okay.
aware of what's going on.
And this is similar to any implementation of changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we've done it the past 8
Yeah.
years anyway.
A lot of work.
Yeah. Culmination of a lot of work from not only staff, but also the board. and,
Yes, absolutely.
Implementing, I mean, honestly, this is one of, I believe this may be the first time the county's really ever followed through, both with the comprehensive rezonings as well as updating our zoning text after a master plan process.
Absolutely, we've
So,
pretty much implemented
pretty cool.
the major items from the Freedom Plan and the County Master Plan.
Yeah.
and a complete code, 158 code review and revisions.
An update.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's something to
It
really be
is.
proud of, I think.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
So we're done here today?
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Any other comments or Mary, Linda,
Yeah, thank you.
guys? Anything, Chris?
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, in discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
I lost the first one, I'll lose the second one, no.